Well, now we are welcoming James Blackman on the DANcast. He is founder of Divers Ready, one of the big YouTube channels on diving education. Really happy to have you here, and would like to talk about how you got into diving and what you're currently up to, what you've been doing, and your support for Dan. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into diving and how that led to being one of the top educators on the internet about diving right now.
Well, that's a scary title, but thank you for that, and thank you for having me here. It's awesome to be on my favorite scuba diving podcast. I'm actually on it now, so that's super exciting. How did I get into diving? Well, I grew up on the coast in the UK. Learned to swim in the ocean when I was a tot. Swimming pools weren't really a thing where I grew up. So, like, if you learned to swim, it was in the waves, in the surf. Pretty hairy kind of conditions to be a tot in. And that just kind of embedded, the passion that everyone talks about for the ocean. And, I got it from a very, very early age. So I think diving was inevitable for me as a progression, having grown up ocean rowing, surfing, sailing, and then as soon as I was old enough, or could afford it, actually was more accurate, scuba diving was immediately added to my my water sports collection. And I became a professional kind of accidentally. I wasn't intentional in intending it to be my career of educating and teaching scuba diving, because I worked at sea for many, many years, and that gave me a lot of downtime. And between times at sea on ships, I would have 2-3 months off, and I'd find myself in Indonesia or Tanzania or Honduras, and all these amazing places that happen to have in common great diving destinations. And then the inevitable thing happened that you start collecting certifications and you work your way through the ranks, and all of a sudden I'm a dive master, and then, well, I might as well do my instructor course because I'm in Utila, and that's one of the best places to train in the world for that, so I might as well do that while I'm here. Then all of a sudden I'm like, wow, I'm actually a dive instructor now. So it wasn't something that I really actively set out to do from a young age. It wasn't until I hit my mid-20s that I became an instructor. And then when I got to the point where I was like, okay, I've had enough of sort of being away for 4 months at a time. I want to have some semblance of a normal life, if you can call dive instructing that. That's when I sort of committed more to doing it as my full-time job. And I started to manage dive resorts and fill in for different people around the world, some friends of mine in the industry. And just got to network with some sort of really big heavy hitters and had some really great mentors at the early part of my career that really sort of set me up for success. So I stand on the shoulders of a lot of great divers that came before me that helped me build the career that I have today. So super thankful for that.
Nice. And what eventually brought you to the United States?
Honestly, my wife.
Work here?
Yeah, I met my wife overseas, who was an American. So we met in the Caribbean. I was the general manager of a dive center in St. Martin. Small family-owned operation. We had 2 operations, one on the French side of the island that was the sort of day boats and the tourist side, and then we had a satellite operation next to the cruise terminal. So we would do 100 DSDs a day with 10 or 15 instructors over there just processing people crazily. And my wife was a guest, so she married her dive instructor. That old cliche. She hasn't lived it down since. But no, so we did the long distance thing for a while, me in the Caribbean, her in New York, and then we were like, okay, look, we're not 2 college kids that went to schools on other sides of the country. Like, we can do the long distance thing for a while, but it's kind of like, are we doing this or not? So, yeah.
So now you're in Florida.
We're in Florida.
And you have started a pretty successful YouTube channel called Divers Ready.
Yeah. Why
don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the first company we started is actually our instructional brand, Miami Technical Diving. So that was always meant to be the bread and butter, and we focus on open circuit and closed circuit technical diver training on a very personal level. All of our classes are private, one-to-one, and all of them go, above the minimum standards. If a course calls for 8 dives, we'll do 12, and so on. So we make long courses and very sort of thorough training program. And once we'd kind of saturated the immediate South Florida, Miami locale of everyone I could reach with, connections through local dive centers and so on and so forth, we wanted to come up with a way to reach people to come to South Florida to train with me. And obviously YouTube is just a great platform for that. And it kind of coincided with COVID and everything shutting down and diving not becoming available anymore, non-essential businesses and all that kind of thing. And we kind of thought, okay, well, look, there's never been a better time in human history where you've got so many free marketing tools. And I spent maybe a morning on YouTube, and I'm not a big YouTube watcher. People are always surprised by that. But I went onto YouTube and I kind of searched for a few various scuba diving terms. First, scuba diving instruction, IDC questions, some random phrases, and I wasn't getting a lot of content coming through. There were some very, very knowledgeable people that had kind of questionable production value. So obviously they knew what they were talking about, but maybe their audio wasn't great or their video wasn't great. Or you had people who had quite high production value and maybe not had the knowledge and the experience and were just there to be a YouTuber. But there wasn't anywhere kind of in the middle there. And I thought if we can max those two things of having reasonable, maybe not, this damn beautiful studio production quality, but some kind of reasonable production value, and at the same time, share some experience and answer some of those questions that seem to be asked, that we would be able to reach more students. So it was a very sort of selfish motivation of just trying to recruit more technical diver students. That was how we got started.
So what kind of how do you come up with the questions that you answer or the content that you want on your YouTube channel? Obviously, you're making the content that isn't available and that you would have liked to see when you did that search.
Yeah. Yes, so there's a few things with that. So I kind of thought about the lessons I'd learned along my career the hard way. The things I wasn't taught by my instructor, the stuff I had to learn by making a mistake and being like, oh, well, how can I stop somebody else from making that mistake? So I sat with a legal pad and I wrote out just titles. And I had like 4 pages of titles of mistakes I'd made, issues with gear, why didn't I learn to dive in a backplate and wing, right? Why was I in this jacket BCD for wasted years and wasted dives with horrible buoyancy and trim control when I could have been in a backplate and it's just automatic? And why can't I put an open water diver in that? Why isn't that the way? So I went through all these video ideas and we built the channel based on that. How can we get better at conserving our gas, right? What are the top 5, top 7 tips for lowering your sack rate and all these kind of things? So that was really easy at the beginning because I had a huge list of videos to make, right? And then they started to run out. So then you start using tools like Google Analytics. Well, what are other people asking questions about? And there's tools out there that are free and available to find what questions people are asking. Reddit's a great source. Go on the Reddit Scuba subthread feed and see what people are asking. Because you can guarantee if somebody's got a question, they've gone to Reddit and they've posted that question, and a bunch of people have chimed in with their answers, other people have that question. And I think the key thing, if you're going to put content out there, it's cool if you can be funny, right? I don't generally like to do the more controversial stuff. I know I have pretty strong opinions about some things, but it's not like I'm doing it for shock factor, right? I'm doing it for an educational point of view, and all of our videos should answer a question. So if that's the title of the video or if it's in the description of the video, I'm always asking myself, okay, what question can I answer with this video? And now, 5 years down the road, I think 300 odd videos up online. Now it's even easier because now I get questions or video ideas suggested by viewers. So they're basically writing the list for me now, which is awesome. And I just add them to the list, and then as soon as I get chance, okay, what's the next video here, and what question does that solve? But it's pretty cool where we've got people coming to us and asking emails, emailing questions through the channel, and I can just send them a link to one of the videos that maybe they didn't catch. I'm like, this will give you all the information you need. It's right here. I've already made that video. There it is. So it's nice to have that kind of library to fall back on.
Right. So what also happened with obviously speaking a lot about gear and speaking a lot about education and training standards and whatever else, people in the industry know you and actually approach you now.
Yeah.
Right. So how's that networking? What are some tips if you wanted to get more involved in the industry and then follow in your footsteps and also do great content? What is your magic? How are you doing?
I don't know if it's magic. I think it's a realization that, again, there's never been a more communicative time in human history. We've never had such powerful tools, okay? So I think whichever platform that you want to sign up for, there are so many social media avenues right now. If you own a dive center, if you own a retail operation, if you're an independent instructor like I am, there are so many avenues that you can go down. And if you dedicate to one and you're consistent, the audience and the sort of recognition will eventually come naturally. I don't really push for views. I focus on just the Instagram, and like I said, it's just built slowly and steadily. I wouldn't say it was overnight success. We haven't had skyrocketed numbers. Every now and then we'll have a video that you may or may not call viral, but it's not something we particularly court, right? We want to just make a really solid safety and education-based data bank of information for people to access. So from that point of view, if you're looking to do that, my biggest suggestion would be just be consistent. Pick whatever platform you want, whether it's short format, things like TikTok and Instagram Reels or whatever it is, or longer format like YouTube, and just say, okay, I'm going to do one video a week, all right? Or I'm going to do, a 30-second clip every other week, or whatever it is that you can afford to do. But if you look at other creators that are out there, it's feeding, they're not doing it, or not a lot of them are doing it for the creation side, because all the time you spend editing videos is time that you're not scuba diving, right? So in my case, it's okay, I make videos to find students so I can spend more time scuba diving and less time making content. So it kind of defeats its own purpose if you're successful.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I've met, we're recording this at the DEMA Show, and I've met a lot of people that have come up to me and been like, oh, I started a channel because of your channel. I'm like, cool, man, awesome. Like, let us know if we can help. And had a guy come up to me, he's like, yeah, I don't have as many subscribers as you. I've only been doing it for 6 months. He had like 2,500 subscribers. I had like 300 after 6 months. So, he's on the great track and all that kind of stuff. I was like, okay, well, let me subscribe to you, and now you've got one more, and there we go. Right. But it's a nice thing. It's a really nice thing.
Since you mentioned that we're at DEMA, we're recording this at DEMA.
Sure.
You've obviously been on the show floor. What are some things that you really enjoyed this year that might not have been there last year, or that have expanded exponentially?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't here last year. I think I missed the last two DEMAs, actually. Last year I was in Trook Lagoon, which, was a hardship.
Oh, I'm
but we
so
made
sorry.
it through it. Yeah, no, we made it through it. But this year, a lot of things that really sort of blew my mind. Connecting with the Reef Track guys, which is a product that will be coming out next year. It's not even available yet, but they had a big technology forward booth right in the middle of the floor, and their product is going to keep divers safer. There's no other way to say it, right? They're going to make navigation so much easier, and hopefully reduce the amount of lost divers we get that just swim off of a dive site and pop up behind the boat and get blown off in the current and all this kind of stuff. So really interested to see how those guys grow as a company, and I was talking to a bunch of their directors and was, hopefully that we're going to partner with them and sort of champion them as much as we can in the new year. And then, I want to talk about the Avelo system, and their new partnership with Shearwater. I've been a shearwater diver for 20 years, big fan, and in 2022, which was the first year that Avelo came to DEMA, they had a tiny little booth. They called it the Black Box, and I interviewed my friend who works for Avelo, Jennifer Idle, the first woman to dive all 50 states, and we had a chat about Avelo, and I put a video out on YouTube about it, and there was just a stream of hateful comments and naysayers. This is just a fad, this is a solution looking for a problem, and it's kind of nice to be vindicated and come back now where, the booth has grown. They now have, a dozen staff members here at DEMA. They're in, 61 dive centers on 4 continents, and they're an established brand. And then they've now partnered with Shearwater to make their jetpacks. So, with Shearwater's phenomenal reputation in the industry, that kind of vindicates the faith that I put into Avelo. So I kind of feel like, see, it was good. I told you it was going to be good. I told you it was going to change scuba diving forever. So that was kind of nice to see. I used the analogy with somebody else at dinner the other night that it was like seeing two friends who you really, really like and you think they'd be great for each other finally start to date. And I was like, you guys got together. This is amazing. So I thought that's a really nice thing. So, yeah. So those two things. There's always some kind of scary, controversial tech out there as well. This year, there was a kind of a surface-supplied full face mask, hybrid scuba snorkel. Honestly, I didn't get too much into the weeds with it because it was scary from a distance, so I didn't really want to get too close to it. But you look at those kind of things and you're like, yeah, that's probably technology we don't need, and probably maybe won't see those guys again. Similar to, back in 2019, if you remember the Russian rebreather helmet. Never saw that guy again. It's still the most watched video on our channel, but never saw that guy again. Gone. You always get these kind of, okay, I'm very technology forward. I'm very much consider myself an early adopter. But then you kind of got to say, okay, well, is this solving a problem that we have in scuba diving right now? And I think in the case of Reef Track, that's definitely going to solve a problem. That's going to make navigation so much easier for your average diver, and it's going to keep people safer. And then you look at something else where it's surface supplied, full face mat. I don't even remember the name of the brand. I blocked it from my mind. And you look at that and you're like, I think they're pushing technology in the wrong direction there. So, not all new technology is good technology. Let's put it that way.
Right. Speaking of early adopter, what are some things in the last few years that you're most excited about happening in the industry, other than Avelo? We've covered that.
Yeah. So obviously Garmin wading into the dive industry. Diving for Garmin is a tiny percentage of what they do as a company, right? They're aviation. That's why they're in Kansas, the capital of aviation in the whole country. And obviously their GPS satellite networks and all the navigation equipment they make for the maritime industry, the aviation industry, and so on. And to have a champion like Patrick Danko come in, who I know has been on the DANcast. It was one of my favorite episodes. Sat in this very chair. And be like, hey, we should be doing dive computers. Right? We've got the technology. We should be putting out, user wearable platform. We're already doing fitness, running, tracking, and all this kind of stuff. So we've got the technology already. Why aren't we in the diving industry? And to see those guys grow and grow and grow, and now again, safety tools like the Garmin buoy, and they're just pushing technology in the right way. And I think the next level of technology, we're already starting to see certain devices, certainly outside of the dive industry, health monitoring, personal health monitoring, whether it's a simple pulse ox and step counter, or that's starting to cross over now into diving. There's not a product on the market yet that's that useful for underwater, or that has any kind of deco impliance to the data. But I think 10, 15 more years, we're going to start to see more sort of personal medical data being involved for divers. And that can only be a good thing. It can only keep people safer. So, yeah, excited to see things like that.
We sure hope so.
Yeah.
A thing you mentioned earlier is that you do specialized, you teach one-on-one, or you teach on an individual level. What do you teach, and how did you why was it important to you to say we're doing these one-on-one experiences?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that the main driving factor is I'm happier as an instructor when I know I've delivered a really, really thorough, good class. So when I know that I've done absolutely the best I can by the student, I've given them the best training possible, I've put the extra effort in, I haven't phoned it in, I've really, really concentrated. And it's just so much easier to do that one at a time than having a class. If the course standards say that you can have, whatever the course is, doesn't matter. But let's say you can have 4 students, or you can have 8 students, and the course is 4 days long. If you're one of 4, you're only going to get a quarter of the instructor's attention at best. If there's a problem child in the group, you might get less than your fair share. So if you teach one-to-one, you get 100% of my attention for the duration of the course, and we can go as long as we want. from the student's point of view, it's also a lot nicer because there's no peer pressure. You don't have to keep up with the other diver in the class or be held back by them if they're not at the same level that you're at. You have my undivided attention. There's no imposter syndrome. There's no fear of asking a stupid question because it's just the two of us and we can, break the ice really easy and work as a buddy pair. And yes, I'm the instructor, but also you feel like you can ask me questions because you're not holding up the group or anything like that. So it's a nicer experience all round. I'm not going to lie as well. It's more profitable to teach one-to-one than it is to a class group because you would expect to pay more for a private class, right? If you have the undivided attention, and that can only be a good thing from a business point of view. And I always, there's lots of jokes in the dive industry about how to not make money, and what is it about the pepperoni pizza? The difference between a pepperoni pizza and a dive instructor. You know that joke?
I do not.
Oh, pepperoni pizza will feed a family of 4. So you get all these kind of jokes, and it's always about what they're trying to say is that scuba diving as an industry is a race to the bottom, right? It's like, how cheap can we make something? How fast can we make something? What can we cut out? What can we trim out? How can we do this, more efficiently to get more people in through the door? And I just kind of zagged when everyone else was doing that, and I was like, no, I kind of want to be the most expensive instructor in my region. Not because, I want to be bougie or anything like that, but I want to give the best possible experience to the student, right? And in order to do that, to teach one-to-one, to make enough money to cover mortgage and bills, it's going to be a premium service. So I think that, in that wasn't the driving factor for the decision, but I think in order to provide the best possible service, private instruction is the way to go. I would struggle to teach at the level I do now if I had the class maximums for the courses that I teach. And I think you asked me as well, what do I teach predominantly? Mm-hmm. My bread and butter is still at the moment open circuit entry-level tech. So I teach a lot of intro to techs for people who are curious about the tech setup, that want to do the Discover Scuba Dive version of technical diving, and a day and a half of diving in full tech equipment configuration to see if they're strong enough to carry the gear, they like the feel of it underwater, is it too cumbersome, is it too much, how are their foundational skills, buoyancy, breathing, trim and propulsion, do they have good basic control at a safe, shallow, recreational limits, but give them the sort of taste of tech and give them the ability to self-assess, and also for me to give them feedback. Okay, look, if you want to carry on with technical diving, go away and work on this, that, and the other. And then entry-level technical courses like advanced nitrox decompression procedures, which are really the gateway to the whole technical diving smorgasbord. So if you want to go on and eventually do CCR, you should still do those open circuit tech classes. If you want to go deep, dark, and scary, either inside wrecks or caves, you've still got to do your advanced nitrox deco procedures. So that's still the main sort of gateway courses that I love to teach. And then my personal favorite, because I'm in South Florida, and the reason we're in South Florida, is all the fantastic wrecks. So teaching advanced wreck is my favorite course to teach by far, because of the growth you see in the students. I've seen students come into that class completely terrified. Maybe they've got a dash of claustrophobia, maybe a little bit of scared of the dark, scared of cramped spaces, scared of the silt, scared of all the things that can go wrong, and they leave that course with a new set of skills completely that they didn't have before, and a whole ton of confidence to support those skills as well. I've also seen people on the other side come into that course, completely gung-ho and macho and loud, and have been brought to their knees, tail between their legs, shaking and crying because we put them in tough spots in the training, and they were like, wow, I didn't know that was going to be as difficult as it was. So seeing that people that were probably a little bit more overconfident gain respect, and then people who are underconfident gain the confidence and the skills. It's really a proving ground of a course. It's really, really fantastic to see. So that, and then of course, the rebreathers as well. I've been a rebreather instructor just for a couple of years, so it's a growing part of my business. But again, when you've got a huge funnel of open circuit technical divers that you have trained, and now you're offering CCR courses, that's kind of a nice thing that you get open circuit guys that I've been working with for years come back now and sort of start doing their closed circuit training with me as well. That's awesome.
Yes. You have worked with us, with Dan, in
Yeah.
the past, and we appreciate all the shout outs for things we do and try to make diving better and safer. So, what are some of the things you have done before? What can people go back to? Or, no, let's rephrase the question. What are some of the favorite things you have in your videos that if people have time after finishing listening to this to go into your channel, what are the top 5 that they really need to see?
Yeah. I loved working with Dan. It's interesting when a brand approaches me because I turn down 9 out of 10. If it's not a product I used before I had YouTube or a product that I see a use for, I don't talk to those people. Okay, so I was a Dan member for years before I had Miami Technical Diving. I was a Dan member before I had a YouTube channel. So when we talked and we set up a program to educate about all the various activities that Dan do, I was like, yeah, this is a perfect fit. Same thing with Shearwater. I was a Shearwater user for years before. When they came to us to do some content, I was like, absolutely, that's a great fit. I get asked to do all kinds of sort of content that I turn down because I'm like, I'm not going to be genuine with your product, right? It's going to come across as I'm not a good actor. I'm not going to, for better or worse, what you see is what you get. So if I can talk about something that I genuinely do enjoy, it's a lot easier for me, and it's going to be a better viewing experience for the people watching my videos. The videos that I really enjoy making are all the travel stuff, all the adventure stuff that we do, right? And it annoys me. We did a big, well, not big, it was a short film, a short documentary, the first time we did the sardine run. And we had Bear Wetsuits and Dive Right as 2 brands that supported the production of this documentary, both financially and with gear and all this kind of stuff. And we went out and we shot a beautiful documentary with humpbacks and bait balls full of dolphins and sharks, and it took me a month to edit. And I was really happy with the end result, and it was beautiful. I launched the video, it got a few thousand views, and I was like, I really thought that was going to splash. I come to DEMA, it's the last day of DEMA 2019, I filmed that Russian rebreather helmet guy on my phone, handheld, not even a tripod, no microphones, like I'd packed everything away, we were leaving. I threw it up online, it's our most watched video. So it really irks me that my passion projects are not the ones that connect with the audience. But I guess that's how the cookie crumbles. So I love the travel stuff. I mean, wrecks are my thing. So the bikini stuff, I'm very, very proud of what we shot in bikini. I'm very proud of what we shoot in Truk Lagoon. I love taking groups of divers to Truk and showing them that, and then filming their sort of reactions to just, you could almost see their jaws drop and their regulators are like, oh no, I can put that back in the mouth and hold on to it. As they're swimming around these wrecks, it's just, that's sort of the human element to the dive stories that we love to do. But yeah, no, anything that gets me out and diving and filming underwater is my passion project for sure.
So after being in the diving industry for a while, you've decided to go off on yourself and being your own boss.
Mm-hmm.
How has that affected what you do, and how do you... I know you have some strong opinions. And
it's refreshing. Yeah, it's nice to not have a boss. It's nice to not have a sort of an oversight committee, if you like. But that comes with responsibility as well. You when you build an audience, as we've done, you owe them the truth as you see it, but you've got to remember it's just one man's opinion. An example of that, that I always use, and I've said this many, many times in the channel, is I get very frustrated with the sort of misunderstanding of the dive instructor agency relationship. A lot of the attention that goes into instructor development programs is the marketing and the collateral and the sort of, I don't want to call it brainwashing, that's not right, but the definitely strong marketing effort to brand an instructor. And what I like to remind new instructors is, you don't work for insert name of agency. You don't work for PADI, NAUI, SDI, SSI, INTD, RAID, unless they're giving you a paycheck. I'm a TDI instructor. I pay them every year to have a license to buy their materials to give to my students to provide the courses that I provide. So they're employed by me. I'm not employed by them because the money is flowing from me to them. And I think that newer instructors would be well reminded to know that if your instructor agency is not serving your needs, go to a different agency. Change it up. And it's, you scroll Facebook and you see a dive instructor, and I get a lot of requests from different dive instructors to add me as a friend or connect on Instagram or whatever it may be. And you see works at dive instructor Paddy. I'm like, no, you work at dive instructor, insert your name here. So I always encourage people, like, bring your own brand on. Work for yourself, right? The agency is just a print house that's supplying you with manuals. If they do anything else for you, great. If you get a referral through their website because your name is listed in their directory, together with the other 900 dive instructors in South Florida, cool. That's happened for me once in 5 years. So represent yourself, take care of your own brand, and be your own boss, even if you're working for a dive shop, right? If you're employed and you do have a boss and you work for, Florida Keys Dive Center or whoever it is in wherever you are, be your own boss, make your own brand, make your own content, recruit your own students. If you bring customers to your dive center, your boss is going to love you. You have a job forever, right? But you've got to sort of, as a dive instructor, your name is going on the card. It's your brand. Whether you have a YouTube channel or an Instagram following or you don't, you still have a brand, whether you like it or not. So for me, that's very clear because I have a YouTube channel and a logo and this, that, and the other. But I encourage all newer instructors to have your own brand, be your own boss, even if you're working in a sort of group environment. Because at the end of the day, as we know, every C card you put out there with your name on it is your reputation, right? And it works both ways. If you get a diver, send them out into the world, and they are perfectly in trim with amazing buoyancy, as the instructor, that's a great ambassador for you. And that dive center is going to be like, wow, your buoyancy, how many dives? You've got 8 dives? You're amazing. Who trained you? Your name comes up. And the opposite is also true. If you have a diver who's an absolute soup sandwich. What? You never heard that before?
I have not.
A minestrone hoagie? Okay. All right. Okay. So if you've got a diver, you put them out there in the universe and they're plowing the reef with their fins and they're bouncing up and down and they go through their gas in 2 seconds, that's also a representative of yours. Wow, who trained you? But not in a good way. So we all know, we've already mentioned the same group of names. We all know each other. Dive industry small. You walk around, you know everyone at DEMA, everyone knows you. So every student you put out is an ambassador of yours. Whether you work for a dive center or not. So I think it's a weird thing that people don't quite understand, that instructor-agency relationship. They should be working for you, not the other way around. I mean, unless you actually work for the agency, in which case they'll give you a paycheck. It'd be nice.
Very good. That concludes the questions I have, but it was great having you here. And do you want to let our listeners and followers know anything else that we have not touched on today?
No, I think thank you very much. I know this is late on day 4 of DEMA, so I know that we're both running on just pure caffeine at this point. Those $5 espresso shots down at the shop floor is all that's keeping my eyelids from falling. So thank you very much for having me on. By all means, if you want to come and train with me in South Florida, we'd love to have you. We've got MiamiTechnicalDiving.com and diversready.com if people want to come and check out our offerings, come on a trip with us, go explore Trip Lagoon or anything like that. They'd be very welcome to do that. But other than that, I'm just going to keep beating the drum for DAN membership and all the wonderful things that you guys do.
Thank you so much. It was great to have you here.
Thank you.